Today on the podcast, we have Alex Moreno, founder of Hawker's eyeglass company, a sunglass company. I don't know if you might actually do both. This guy took $300 and turned it into more than $60 million in 3 years. I want to talk to Alex about how he did it, what he's doing now, and of course, his insane watch collection. Alex, how's it going? How are you?
Hey, how are you doing? Thank you for the intro.
Thank you for joining us. I know it was kind of a surprise that this was a podcast. You thought you were getting into something else, but it's a good surprise, I think.
Yeah, it's amazing actually. I just started doing podcasts myself, so I'm enjoying it.
Tell me about your podcast. What is the concept like? What are you talking about?
So I have conversations over a meal. We have lunch or dinner, or sometimes drinks, with people that had some sort of success in life. It doesn't need to be business success. It could be anything. And we just talk about everything and anything. And they're very long. They're 2 hours. They happen
Wow.
to be in Spanish because it's my language.
Yep.
So, but it's having a lot of success. The first couple episodes, they're over 500,000 views.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is serious success.
Yep.
Question, do you have a favorite podcast that you listen to?
Honestly, I cannot hear longer than like 30 minutes of any podcast. I just don't, I simply don't have the focus for that. But I enjoy watching, as I told you before, your content, like what's related content. I watch it all the time. So those are my favorite.
Well, I got a sneak peek into your collection of watches, so it makes sense that you're into watches. Let's talk about, the beginning of how you're able to afford this amazing collection. Hawkers, is it, correct me, is it sunglass or eyeglass? Is it both?
Both. We started
Okay.
as a sunglasses company, but then after 3 years or so of doing direct to consumer, we opened our first store, and today it's over 100 stores. So it
Wow.
has everything. Eyewear,
That is amazing.
yeah.
So the story was you, your brother, a couple of friends started, I guess, the Spanish version of Craigslist. Didn't work out. Somehow you pivoted to sunglasses. Tell me what that story was.
So it was 2012 that I didn't have a job. I was running low on savings. And at the time, I was 23, 24 years old. And my dad, he told me, I think it's time for you to stop hustling and just come work with me. My dad had
Hmm.
a air conditioning company.
Hmm.
And I said, you know what? If you give me one more year, I think I'm going to build something. He obviously believed in me, and I was doing some technology. I was doing just working on a startup. That didn't go well, but at the same time, I was trying to make some money, and I was buying and selling stuff online. And I found a pair of sunglasses that was really, really cheap.
Hmm.
It's a company from San Diego called Knockaround. So I started buying those and selling those, and
Hmm.
they were flying off the shelf. Like it was crazy. It was just selling a lot. So I decided to reach out to them and try to distribute the product for them in Europe. And at the same time, I was learning how to do Facebook ads, Google ads, and all that. And I became really good with Facebook ads. So from that company, we did like $1 million in sales, and we didn't do more because they didn't have enough product during that summer. So 2013 came around. I talked to them and I said, I'm going to need more product. They didn't seem to believe what I was saying. So I
Hmm.
decided to start my own company. That was Hawkers.
Hmm.
And it was the right timing, to be honest. Facebook ads was working really, really, really good. My team and I, we were really good with Facebook ads. As a matter of fact, we were one of the first companies to ever do advertising on Instagram. We were selected with a few other companies. I think it was Michael Kors, McDonald's, a few others, to do advertising. At the time, it didn't work well. It was Facebook the main driver for us. But it was really, really, really fast because we started 2013 December. By 2016, we were doing around $100 million in revenue.
That's insane. I mean, I missed that time. That was like the golden era of Facebook ads. You could sell anything if you do it right.
I regret not pushing harder, to be honest.
I know,
But
me too.
at the time, I decided to enjoy life and start watch collecting and start the family and enjoy life a little bit. Moved out to LA. I mean, no regrets, but sometimes I think
Yeah.
I should have pushed harder.
Yeah. I remember talking to a friend of mine and he was asking me, I had a DTC brand at the time too. And, we're doing $3,000 a day spend on Facebook. And he's like, oh my God, that's insane. You're spending $100,000 a month. And I was like, why am I not doing more? Like, what's stopping me? So then we kept pushing more and more to finally we got to the point where we were doing $10,000 a day in ad spend on Facebook. And I was like, amazing. I regret not keeping that company. But
I mean, it's what it is. I think there's another opportunity right now. I think user generated content it's working really really good. So I think there's another opportunity, and there will be more opportunities online and
I,
e-commerce.
are you building something using that opportunity, taking advantage of
Yes,
this?
yes. As a matter of fact, that's why I'm doing the podcast, and I believe that's why you guys are doing a podcast. I did the math with my wife actually. I told her when I have 100,000 views on TikTok or even my stories on Instagram, people are watching that content for roughly 5 to 10 seconds. So
Hmm.
if you add up all those views and that time, it's like 6, 7 days, 10 days maximum of combined watch time of that audience. The same amount of views on my podcast, because it's really long and they're watching 20 minutes, it's around 40 years. So I believe the opportunity of influencing people to buy anything that you're selling or participate anyway with what you're building, it's much, much, much higher when you're doing it on YouTube or long format platforms rather than TikTok or Instagram. I believe TikTok or Instagram, it's a great platform to build audience and bring
Yes.
them. It's like where your funnel starts and you bring them to YouTube. But I
Yep.
believe YouTube, it's an amazing platform. When you do great content, you're rewarded with a very loyal audience.
Absolutely. We have the same strategy here where we use short form content to draw an audience to our long form content. Actually, talking about that and being able to sell anything, it's a good segue into our sponsor. So our sponsor here is graphicrugs.com. They create all sorts of really cool, like large scale and I guess small scale rugs. They gave us an opportunity to give away a rug every episode. I'm going to ask them to send you one. So the one that they just came out with, which is really cool that we're going to give away in this episode, is the Crash. It's modeled after the Cartier Crash watch.
Oh, nice.
It's very, very cool. If you want that, it's either you could have that or their next drop is the Richard Mille Rock and Roll.
Oh, that's cool. That's a cool
Yeah,
one.
that's so you could have like a 6.5 foot Richard Mille rug in your office, in your room, your man cave. So in order to, I guess I'll just tell the audience, if you want to get in, if you want an opportunity to win one, simply follow at Graphic Rugs on Instagram, comment Graphic Rugs on this video, and 7 days from this video, they'll choose a winner and ship you out a rug. Back to
Sweet.
this. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like throw an ad in there, but I have to
It's
do it every
amazing. I love
episode.
it. I'm trying actually to get my first sponsor. I had a meeting today with Red Bull.
That's a
Because
serious sponsor.
yeah, no, I happen to have a can of Red Bull. Well, one of my the guys that I invited to the podcast, we were at a bar and he ordered Red Bull, and they were fascinated by the fact that it was the whole podcast in there, and we had on that one almost 400,000 views.
Wow, that's
So
amazing.
yeah.
We usually have Yeah, we drink Celsius here. It's like it's another version of Red Bull, and we constantly tell Celsius, "Hey, you need to sponsor us. Your drinks are in every one of our videos."
Trust me, I know what Celsius is. I'm not
Okay.
used to drink caffeine or anything like that. And in Miami, I tried a couple of those. Oh my gosh, I was cleaning my entire house myself.
Yeah, we have a refrigerator full of Celsius. Everybody in the office has access to it at any time. Um, let's go back to, so it sounds simple. I started selling sunglasses. I got up to 100 million in sales. How did you actually, you contacted Luxottica, the largest manufacturer of sunglasses, Prada, Gucci, all those brands. How did you, get into them and say, hey, I want you to start manufacturing my sunglasses. I'm going to start selling them. How does that work?
So we tried to get in touch with them actually at the very beginning. They never paid attention to us as much. They saw us as a very, very small business. But what
Hmm.
happens is Luxottica, they have a monopoly.
Hmm.
I believe. I mean, it's not
They do.
official, but I believe they do. It's my opinion. They actually merged with Essilor, which is
Hmm.
the biggest manufacturer for lenses, and Luxottica. They own basically the distribution, right? So there's an opportunity because given the structure of their company, their pricing has to be always $50 and above to sustain the entire chain, right? So because they have distributors, they have the retail operation, they have all of that. And aside of that, they don't want to lower the price because they kind of dictate what's the
Of
price
course.
of a pair of quality sunglasses. So when I saw that and I thought about, is there any good brand behind a pair of sunglasses that it's around $20? And
Hmm.
the answer was no. As a matter of fact, today, 10 years after, do you know any pair of sunglasses that you can pay $20 and it has a great branding behind it?
Great branding, no. No, I mean,
No, right?
you had Warby Parker that came out as like the cheaper, option. They're
It's
also
not
not
cheap.
cheaper. No, they're a
Yeah.
minimum of $100 a pair of glasses. No, yeah, there's a lot of products like that are missing one big solid brand.
Yeah, so that's why we started doing it, and we just went to China, started manufacturing ourselves.
Hmm.
Today, Hawkers has their own factory in Spain, so not all the production it's made there, but a big chunk of it, and they're trying to do more and more. It's made out of Spain, which
Nice.
I'm very proud of, and because of the increasing price of logistics, it's actually cheaper to manufacture today in Spain than it is in China for
Yeah.
hawkers because of the volume, and as well because technology. I don't know if you've seen the robotic arms
Hmm.
are really cheap nowadays. So a lot of the work that usually was done by a human, now it can be
Hmm.
done with one of these arms. So those two things combined gave the company an opportunity recently of manufacturing more and more in Europe. And I believe with time, they will do the same thing in the United States. And I think people will appreciate that a little bit more than when it's made
Of
outside of the
course.
country.
Where are you now? Are you in Spain or are you in LA?
No, I'm in Spain actually.
Nice.
I was born here, and recently I've been living in LA for 8 years, and then I lived in Miami for one. And
Hmm.
then recently, because my son he turned 4 and he was going to school, we decided that Spain was a good option for us, and we spent half of the year here.
Very nice. Yeah, so you started manufacturing your own glasses. Obviously, the company grew. You took on additional investors. You started opening up retail locations. Throughout, I'd like to bring in watches into the conversation. Throughout this entire process, and I know you have, a portion, a small portion of your collection of watches, with you. Can you remember any watch that you bought yourself once you achieved a certain goal? Like, the day I have $1 million in my bank account, this is the watch I'm going to buy myself, or 10 million or 100 million.
I remember all of them. I remember every single one of them. My first luxury watch that I thought it was luxury
Hmm.
was Mont Blanc. Before that, I had a Tag Heuer Aqua Racer. It
Hmm.
was all black with yellow neon green
Yep.
accents. And that watch, I lost it in Las Vegas, actually.
Wow.
And the Mont Blanc, I gave it to one of my best friends because at some point I wasn't going to use that watch anymore in my life.
Hmm.
It didn't fit my lifestyle anymore. Like it was too big for me. So I decided that that watch should be worn. So I gave it to one of my best friends. And then my first Rolex was a two-tone Digest
Okay.
because I couldn't afford the full gold version at the time. So I had to go with the two-tone.
Did you buy it to celebrate something?
No, I bought it the first day that I could afford it. So the moment
Okay.
that I had $8,000 to my name, I bought it. At the time, my passion for watches was a lot. It had a lot to do with how I felt uh, that I was so in the world having success. So
Hmm.
I was very naive. I was very young, and I thought that I needed the Rolex to prove something. Obviously, with time, you learn that that's just
Of
stupid.
course.
But it was at the time that was my lesson, right? I actually had to put like a couple credit cards together because I couldn't pay. It was $8,000 and something and change, and I couldn't pay the change.
It's called the first money watch. The
Yeah,
Rolex is typically your first money watch.
yeah. So I bought that, and that one my best friend has it as well. So
Very nice.
because I don't use two tones anymore. I either use one metal, whatever, like either
Hmm.
gold, titanium, stainless steel, whatever it is. But I'm not a fan of two tones. So that one, my best friend, he wears it like almost daily.
It's good to be your friend.
No, I mean I gave a couple out, but I thought my thought process was this is an amazing watch. It's really important to me. I want it to be worn, so I don't want to have it in a safe and that's
Hmm.
it. So I gave it to him, and I said, one day you'll give it to my son. Whenever you feel that's
Awesome.
the moment, give it to him.
That's
So
awesome.
so he's like the guardian of my watch, right? From there, everything I still have it, you know. So if you wanna, I will show you
Yeah, let's take a look.
the first full gold Rolex that I bought. It was in Glendale
Hmm.
in California.
Did you buy it from the AD or did you buy it from the
Yeah,
gray market dealer?
no, with a very hefty discount.
Wow. Oh, I
Yeah,
love it. Love
chocolate
it. The
dial,
olive. Oh, I'm sorry.
chocolate.
It looked like olive from the camera. That's a
No,
beautiful, beautiful day date.
I have the olive as well, but this is the first that I had. And the same day that I got this one, I got a Hulk. Well, I have it here.
I'm going to ask you to show me something that you don't think, people see regularly.
On this box, there's a lot of Rolexes. Let me see. I mean, I don't think there's many of these out there. People have seen them. It's a
Oh,
meteorite
yeah.
dial.
Beautiful, beautiful watch.
I was lucky enough to get one of these allocated actually January this year, and they are discontinued.
Now,
So I honestly think that people are not talking enough about this watch
it's true.
because it was a very, very, very short run. I believe they're going to release them again with the new Daytona, but I think this is a very special watch, and I really, really enjoy wearing this one, especially during summer because of the sun. So this is something that most people don't see often, and a lot of them don't like it. But I really enjoy it, and I have a bunch of different ones. It's the Artisans, the Geneve Daytona. This is the Montoya. This is
I
one of
love
the
it.
first that they made.
Love it.
Uh, it's a polarizing watch. There's people that think that it's awful that they do this, and I think after you have a variety of watches, I think it's fun to explore that option. I'm waiting this summer actually for another Daytona that they're making for me. It's the one with the sapphire
Yeah,
bezel.
I was just going to bring that up. Either the carbon or the sapphire. They're both my favorites. I love them both.
I honestly have a bunch of the carbon ones, so I decided to go with the sapphire. I went to Switzerland to see their factory, and it was exciting for me. I have as
Uh,
well this one, the
oh,
Andrea Pirlo.
love it. Those are amazing. I think they do a job maybe as good, if not better, than Rolex.
I honestly think they do a better job,
Yeah.
obviously, because Rolex doesn't pay attention to the movement. This is another rare watch. You see them more often, but it's the
Yeah.
green, the
Yep.
lacquered dial. It's
Yeah.
rare, but it's not that rare. Let me see if I can
It's
show
beautiful.
it. Yeah, it's a
Yep.
beautiful watch. And for me, my favorite Rolex that I own, and I think the most special one, it's this one. I think it's a very rare watch. I don't know if you've seen it ever in person, but it's the white gold
Yeah. Yep.
with the enamel
Yeah.
markers.
It is
Uh,
amazing. I haven't seen it in person. I know that we've had one in here. It was only in here for a couple hours because we got it and shipped it right off to the customer. But we had pictures of it, and it's a stunning, stunning dial.
they made it with blue markers, green markers, and black markers. I happen to have the one with the black ones, which is my favorite as well. And I call it the Mickey Mouse because this watch was originally purchased by the grandson of Walt Disney.
Wow.
Something that
Very
I
cool.
discovered years after having and owning the watch because I didn't have the papers. They were missing.
That's amazing. That is
And
amazing history behind a watch.
yeah, it
So,
is.
so you would have papers that say Disney on it.
So no, his last name it's not Disney.
It's not,
No, 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 no.
that would be awesome.
But he is the actual grandson of Walt Disney. And when I spoke with, I believe it was the president of Rolex North America or something like that in an event, he said it's a very special watch because not many Rolexes have any hand finishing, and this one has two. One is the diamond setting, and the other one is the markers, the being enamel. That's a handmade process. So it's a very special watch. And he mentioned that he believes that around 20 of them were made. So that's
Wow.
not many.
One of 20 in the world, and you have one.
Yeah. And I remember the moment that I was buying it, I had, because I got it from a dealer. I paid $125,000, which I believe it's the value in today's
It's
market because
very reasonable.
being rare doesn't mean that it's going to sell for more. Because if it doesn't have any demand, it
Yeah,
doesn't really matter, right? There's Rolexes that are not rare at all. Like a Daytona, it's not rare,
of course.
but they demand the premium because there's a lot of people
Yeah,
wanting them.
yeah.
But that watch is very special for me. I think I bought it around 2017 or 16. Even I don't remember exactly, but it was one of my first big boy watches, and it felt really good.
It definitely is a big boy watch. Any watches that you bought from dealers, not from ADs? If you bought anything pre-owned, do you ever like Google the name on the documents on the papers?
I do all the time. I didn't buy many from dealers because I'm lucky to have an amazing relationship with the brands. But for instance, Richard Mille, that I have a bunch of them, I wanted to buy older watches from Richard Mille. I got really interested in them because they're thinner, smaller, they have history. They're what they call neo vintage, right? So I bought Richard Mille 005. It's really special, and hopefully someone can tell me in the comments why this is special because if you look at the movement, it's open. Richard Mille started doing this for the 10 because this is the first automatic watch that Richard Mille ever released. So this one, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but if you look, let me see. Let's see.
Yep.
You see that the
Yeah, we can see
movement
it
there,
skeletonized. Yep.
yeah, it doesn't have a cover there. If you Google this watch, every single picture that you'll find has a cover on it. The only picture online that it doesn't have it, it's the one on Richard Mill's website.
Interesting.
Meaning that this could be the watch that they took pictures because it has
That
the same patina, the same
that's
open
cool.
movement, and I haven't found one. Like if people can find one, there's some of them from the limited editions that they have the open movement, but not this. This is a titanium one. So white gold or titanium, I couldn't find one either for sale, and I am obsessed with it. Like I've went through Instagram, every single hashtag, every single person that owned them since 2007 or whatever it was. I couldn't find one like this. I got an answer from someone working at Richard Mill that they said that because this watch was serviced, that they did an upgrade to the movement. And for some time, I wanted to believe that that was the reason. But if that's the case, why is this the only
The only
one?
one. Yeah.
So if anyone knows anything, I'll be glad to learn it.
Let's put it out there and maybe somebody has an answer. But how cool would it be if that is the actual one that was, the one they used for the photographs?
Well, it happened to me something very, very special with this. I don't have the watch here, but and I cannot name who gave it to me, just because he's very, very famous. But he's one of the most famous singers in the world. Let's keep it like that. Um, we traded watches, right? I was wearing a watch. He liked it. And he said, you know what? Like, I want that watch. I cannot find it anywhere. Like, would you mind trading it with me? And I said, we're friends. Like, it was a Richard Mille Tourbillon. And at the time, I didn't have much knowledge of the older Richard Milles, right? So I said, you know what? Like, worst case scenario, this is worth around the same thing as my watch. Let's do it. And it has history. It comes from a very special person. So I took that watch and I went to bed. Before going to bed, I asked a friend in the United States and a friend in Asia, right? I woke up and I read the first message from the friend from the United States, and he says, you know what, this is just another tourbillon. They have a lot of issues with them. It's worth whatever, like a very low amount. And I said, you know what, that's fine. I'm happy with it. I like the watch. It's amazing. It was platinum. And then I opened the next message, and it was my friend from Asia. And he said, this is a unicorn. There were only 25 ever made. This is the first most important watch from Richard Mille. It was a 12,
Wow.
012. And he said, there's only one other watch that it's on the same level or slightly better. That's the 09, 009. Because it was the first watch ever made with a flying tourbillon
Tourbillon.
made without a plate. So meaning that it had a structure, a tubular structure that was holding the tourbillon, so it doesn't have a plate holding the entire movement. It's a very, very special watch. And that moment felt like that burn find, like that moment in your watch collecting history that you find something truly
Oh,
special.
of course.
I
That's a
didn't have
gem.
many of those. Yeah.
And I assume you still have it?
Yeah, I do, but not with me here.
Oh, gotcha. Question, while we go through these watches, off the top of your head, what do you think your watch collection is worth? If you don't mind disclosing that.
I don't mind disclosing it. I did a podcast on Monday. They asked the same question, and I have no idea. It's several $1 million, but I don't keep track of that because I travel a lot and I keep them in a safe in the United States, most of them, and I've been collecting and I traded some of them. I wouldn't, I don't know, but for me, value it's not as important as it used to be for me, and I would say that I'm evolving as a collector, right? Rolex, it felt like I had to have all of
Yeah.
them. Nowadays, I don't care as much for Rolex, and I care more. And I think this happens to everyone, and it happened because I've been influenced by what I see happening to other collectors. But independent watchmakers, it's something that I look at more and more. For me, my issue is that because I never wear something more than a hoodie or like something very
Hmm.
casual, I cannot use leather straps. Like it's not
Yeah.
for me. It doesn't look good for me. So for me, something like FP
FP Journe.
Jorn,
Yeah.
yeah, it's what I love, what I enjoy the most. And I look at cheaper watches now. Like I collect two doors, and it's just like I enjoy them. Like I see the titanium 39 millimeters Pelagos, and I
Hmm.
love it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just for me, it's not the chase that it used to be. It's I wouldn't say this year I'm very focused on watches because I'm more focused on growing my company and doing something more meaningful with my work.
Let's talk more about that. Actually, now that you bring that up,
Hmm.
you exited Hawkers in 2016,
Yeah, 17.
17. So you sold your part. Was there any reason why?
It just happened because the investors that came in, they had a conflict with people in the company, and those people in the company, they found a way to put the investors on their side, and I
Hmm.
saw the opportunity from this problem to find an exit for me. And a very dear friend of mine, he once told me, whenever you're building companies like this and you have the opportunity of exiting one of them, do it, build some money, like have some
Of
money,
course.
and then build from there because you have a safe net. So it just happened at the same time that I wanted to start a family, and I was tired of working 16-hour days during 3 years, which is not
Hmm.
much. Like there's people working 16-hour days for decades.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that it was like too long, but for me, it felt that I needed to balance my enjoyment of life and my
Hmm.
work life. So it was the right scenario for me to exit, and it was in great terms. So that's why I did it.
And that exit is what allowed you to, I mean, first of all, take a breath, be able to, step back and say, okay, now I'm going to try to enjoy life more. I'm assuming it also allowed you to start building your watch collection.
Yes.
What other than the podcast that you mentioned? Well, actually, you know what? Before I get into that, you mentioned to me that you're a big fan of the Luxury Bazaar content, the gray market, and all the stuff that we put out. You mentioned to me that you've been watching since the beginning, since it was just Roman in front of the camera in his office. What do you like about the stuff that we do? What's like what entertains you? What educates you? What do you appreciate about it?
Okay, so for me, it started with Roman, and I really liked that he gave me the opportunity to see all kinds of watches, watches that I would probably never own because they're not my style, but he was educating people on them. And there was such a big variety that I enjoyed watching him talking about them a lot. And as well, I enjoyed that he was very transparent with the business side of things. So for me, I find myself watching gray market often because I want to know the value of watches, what's hot, what's not. Because I see, obviously, watch collecting nowadays has a deep connection with the value of the watches. I don't see the value of my collection as a whole as something important, but you like to know that what you're buying it's going to keep or hold some value, right? And I think that factor it's something that allowed me to buy more watches because if in the event of me needing to like invest in something else or like liquidate or whatever, I know that my money somehow it's safe. Otherwise it wouldn't be a normal thing to me for me to do to buy one or two watches a month, you know.
Yeah, it's funny. We just had this conversation that it's not you're not spending money. You're just taking money from one place and you're putting it into a different asset.
Correct. So for me, even though I like cars, watches are really easy to liquidate if you need to, and it's a very straightforward thing to do.
Mhm.
So that's why I allow myself to build the collection deeper than I would do if I only had to buy the watches that I'm going to enjoy for the rest of my life. Actually, I always thought, what am I going to keep for my son? And at some point, I decided, you know what? I'm going to choose one watch that I enjoy and I like, and that's going to be the only watch that I will give to my son. So eventually, he can build his own collection if he wants to. So I chose Daytona
Mhm.
white dial, the ceramic white dial. I refuse to call it Panda. um, but I had the worst luck ever when last month I lost it.
What?
So now, yeah. So that was the only watch that I was going to give to him, and I don't know how. I wanted to engrave a phrase on the back of the
Of course.
watch, so I put it in a pouch, and I was going to give it to my Rolex AD, and somehow, somewhere, I lost it, and I've been looking for a month. It's not the
Uh,
first watch that I lose, but it was very special.
How old is your son?
He's 4.
Okay. When do you think you're planning to give him a watch? When he's 18, 21?
No,
16.
maybe later in life. So I don't want to make him feel attached to objects, right? So I want him to enjoy collecting of anything, comics, whatever it is that he wants to enjoy. But I feel that there's a downside to collectors is that we feel a strong attachment to something that doesn't really have matter in life.
Mhm.
And I don't want him to go through the same path that I went. I see the beauty of collecting and I enjoy it, but you have to be very responsible to do it. And sometimes you find yourself wanting what others have or wanting whatever you cannot have.
Mhm.
And I believe that's not the path that I want for my son to follow on anything, right? Like cars or like whatever it is.
Sure.
So I'm trying to build a healthier relationship with watches than the one that I had. Now I'm more mature. I'm older. I have more life experience, and but for a time, and I'm okay saying it because it was a mistake that I made and I learned from. I was buying watches to impress other people.
Right.
So it's a status symbol, right?
Yeah.
So nowadays, I try to buy what I really enjoy or something that signifies something important for me.
It's very, very natural. It's funny because my son is 3 years old, and when he was first, like, we always, like, we have two daughters, and then the third one we didn't want to find out. We assumed it's going to be another girl, because in our families it's all girls. So we found out when, obviously when we gave birth, right? I believe, yeah, I think that's on this, because one of them, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't him. We didn't find out until we actually had him and we were surprised. And I was going to buy a watch and I was going to put it in a safe and give it to him when he's, 18 or 21 or any of that stuff. And then I kind of reconsidered. I said, you know what? I would rather give him a watch that has been on my wrist, pretty much every day, because I don't care about the watch itself. I want him to have the thought, the meaning behind, like, this was on my father's wrist, every day. So when he's 40 years old, 50 years old, and he's wearing this, he still has something to kind of remember me by, to connect himself to me. So with the Daytona, I'm assuming it's going to show up sometime. You're going to find it, and when you find it, it might be the right time to give it to your son.
Yeah, hopefully. There's
Yeah.
another one that I want to find one day as well. It's 5968A Patek
Mhm.
Philippe,
I
the
love it.
one with the orange strap.
Yep.
Thankfully, I got another one from my AD. So, but I lost that one in Miami 3 years ago. But anyway, it's something that happens. I learned to assume a loss like that as something natural, easy to forget because it's just an object, and I try to value other things in life more. But at first, I wanted to push watches into my son a lot, and he loves them. Actually, he has a bunch of different Casio watches. Like a friend of mine, he did a collab with I don't know if you know Face Clan.
Yeah,
They're
of course.
in esports,
Yeah.
right? So they did a collab with Casio, and he gave one to my son. So that's his favorite watch.
Cool.
So he likes them, but when he sees me cleaning the watches or anything like that, he actually don't want to participate. So I stop pushing it on him. You know, like if he ever likes to collect something, fine, I will support him. But I think just giving him a load of watches, it's not something responsible to do.
Yeah, you first of all, let him discover if that's his passion as well. And then if he does have the passion, he could start his own collection. So we talked about your company. We talked about how you started. We talked about everything you've done. We talked about, your watch collection, some of your favorite watches, all that good stuff. We talked about possibly meeting you in Ibiza, and being able to do an in-person, recording. That would be ideal. Tell me what you're doing. What's going on? What are you spending your time on?
So I'm building this company right here.
Hills?
It's a clothing company.
Okay.
Um, I'm building this because I believe we had a big impact on marketing and e-commerce, especially in our country,
Mm-hmm.
back in like 2014, 15, 16. A lot of companies were built after our success because we kind of defined a framework to build direct to consumer companies. Times have changed in the sense that making ads with Facebook is not as it's easy. It's very easy to do it, but you don't get the same return, right? So recently, I saw another opportunity on user generated content and organic connection with an audience, building an audience. So I'm trying to start with a clothing company, and
Okay.
I found three guys and one girl that they do filmmaking and storytelling, and they were really creative. So I brought them into the company. I built the company around them, and I invested myself. And they are creating content weekly around building a clothing brand. As a matter
Mm-hmm.
of fact, they're going in 2 weeks. They're going to China, so they're going to film the entire process. We did one drop. We sold out a lot of it, a bunch of different styles. So it works. So we saw that it works. So my idea is that if this works as I expect, I want to build more companies around people. I
Okay.
believe there's a huge chance right now of doing this, as you guys are doing it. I think a lot of people do stuff because of their talents. They don't stop to see why it's happening from the scientific point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to do that. When we were building Hawkers, I always try to understand why are we selling $100,000 today, and tomorrow or yesterday we are selling 95,000.
Yeah.
What's bringing these people to buy today and not tomorrow? Why am I selling $100,000 today and not $300,000? And since I saw a lot of correlation, because obviously there is between the people that comes into a website, there's a conversion rate,
Of
there's
course.
metrics that you can analyze to understand a lot of the behavior behind the buying intentions. I believe you can do the same thing with content. If you, from a scientific point of view of mathematics, statistics, and psychology, if you look at what you guys have done with gray market, it could be replicated in other industries.
Absolutely.
So that's my passion right now. My passion is to understand the new psychology of the new generation, because like it or not, you and I, we are not Gen Zs. We are
Correct.
not part of them. They think differently
Hmm.
and they have a different way of behaving. So right now I'm working a lot on understanding how it works to create companies that deliver that value. I want to believe, and I tell all my teammates, we as a product, we are content first, and then whatever comes after,
Yeah.
it's after. It's not the priority.
That was my strategy here, because so the first thing I had to overcome at Luxury Bazaar was trust. People have never trusted watch dealers or gray market dealers. There was no credibility. You could be sitting, in your basement, selling a watch or two on eBay. How do I know who you are? So although Luxury Bazaar has always been big, they were only big in the wholesale market. When I came on, 80% of our sales were wholesale. So the whole project that they gave me was said, okay, let's figure out how we can convert to being more retail, less wholesale. So first thing to overcome was, okay, why should anybody trust us? Nobody even knows us. So I had to come up with a strategy for showing who we are, what we do, making a connection with the people that would hopefully be customers of ours one day, and showing the behind the scenes, really giving the company a face and a personality and a name, has really helped to do that. And everything that I work on now starts the same way as you just described. It's content first, because once you have an audience, once people listen to your podcast, once people watch your YouTube, they connect with you. And whatever product, and again, I assume it's not going to be, it's not like you're talking about, business strategies and then you're selling sunglasses. It doesn't always work. And obviously it has to connect, it has to be something that your demographic, your viewers, your fans would appreciate. In our case, it's watches. Like, we don't want to compete with somebody for $100 more or less. I'd rather compete with somebody because you know us, you feel, a connection to us. You would rather do business with us than to somebody that you've never met for $100 less on eBay, or $100 more.
No, it's funny that you mentioned that because one of the things that I've done my entire life is to analyze why did I spend money on anything, right?
Hmm.
So the first time that I bought a Rolex, the day after, I sat down and I asked myself, why did you do this? What did they do to you to part ways with your hard-earned money, and
Hmm.
especially in this situation where it's not a smart decision? I had to my name $8,000, and I went a little above my budget
Hmm.
just because I wanted to own that piece of metal, right? So when something like that happens to me, I like to analyze what affected my decision. How did you influence me to do that? So when I was watching um, your content, I could agree or not with Roman's opinion. It doesn't matter. But I saw myself wanting to be part of it somehow, right? So my friend needed to buy a Patek Philippe, an Aquanaut, and I could have went to any dealer because I knew a bunch of them, and I actually asked a bunch of them, but I asked as well Adrian. I said, "Do you have this watch?" Why did I did that? Why did I do that? Because I wanted to participate in the content that you guys. Not that I wanted to be part on a YouTube video or anything like that. I just already had a connection emotionally
Hmm.
to Adrian. Like somehow it felt like I knew him. He didn't know nothing about me, but to me, I've seen hours of content of you guys. At that point, I already had an emotional connection, and that clicked in my mind. Not only that interaction, but a lot of how I saw myself wanting to buy or participate with any of the YouTubers that I was following. That made me understand that it's very powerful.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, knowing all this is going to make you once again very successful in the business that you're going to launch. I mean, what kind of clothing is it? Is it sports or is it just general
No, it's
leisure?
It's just a streetwear. It's for younger generation, like
I gotcha.
16 to 24. In Europe right now, there's a lot of these companies that are doing really well in Europe,
Hmm.
in Spain, in Italy, in Germany. So it's growing because here most of the people we buy from Inditex. I don't know if you are familiar with Zara.
Hmm. Of course.
So that's very easy accessible for us. They have all the styles. So American fashion it's different from European, right?
Yeah.
So streetwear didn't make the same impact as it did, with the Supremes and
Yeah.
like all those companies. Here it had a softer launch,
Hmm.
like people didn't want to wear hoodies all the time or like big logos. Like it was slightly different. So now it's growing and there's an opportunity. I always say that we are kind of like 10 years behind or 5 years behind whatever happens in the
In the
United
U.S.
States. Not for everything, because fashion
Yeah.
wise, Italy or French or France or like countries in Europe are like the
First.
highest
Yeah.
standard for fashion. But in general, like trends come here a little later. So that's an advantage that I want to take as well, because I've been living in the United States. So I see things happening there. And I assume that a lot of them can happen, not always, but can happen in my country or Europe. And it's a big market.
Do you run into, so like, I don't know how similar in age we are, but I was recently at the airport and it was still winter, it was still cold, and there was an entire group of teenagers, Gen Z. They all had the same uniform on. They all had hoodies, short shorts, high socks, and Air Force Ones. That was the uniform. I don't know if that translated to if that transferred to Europe yet. If that's the trend there.
It's not the uniform here yet, but a lot of people are wearing something like that. Yeah, yeah, it's happening somehow in a different form. But so what we're doing, it's doing streetwear because it's having a lot of success here. But it's slightly different than the streetwear that you find in the United States. There it comes all from skateboarding and like these subcultures.
Yep.
Here it's not that much. It doesn't have that authentic
Hmm.
start. If you wish.
Well, even if it's artificial, it'll still catch on.
It's just different, like people do it for the business.
Hey, if there are customers, then somebody has to be the supplier.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Where can people find this brand?
It's the name of the brand,
Hills 163.
163.com.
And Instagram, Hills 163
No, at the Hills. Yes.
at Hills. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a solid Instagram name. How much did that run?
Yeah. So I paid for that like a Submariner at the time.
Wow. It's funny actually. One of the guys that I'm sure you follow, Anthony Ferrer.
Yeah, yeah.
He recently bought at Anthony, which I
Yep.
was like, wow. That first of all, that's solid. That's really good. I mean, Alex here in our office got at No Wait List, which we were like shocked that was available. But
Where
there is
I actually own waitlist.com.
waitlist.com. You
Yep.
should sell that to Rolex.
Yeah, I should, right?
Yeah. Well, Alex, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you giving us a little bit of insight into who you are, how you've built, what you've built, your insane watch collection, some of the history behind it. I mean, it was a pleasure to talk to you, to get to
Thank
learn
you.
about you. And I'm going to, right after this, I'm going to go into Roman's office and start planning our Ibiza trip. I'm dying to go.
You
Is there
should.
anything else that you wanted to discuss or bring up that, I missed?
No, I mean, we covered a lot,
Yeah.
I think we should do more of this. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you, and I don't have always the time to talk about watches because my friends, they don't care about watches. So it's fun to do this once in a while.
I'm going to have you come on to one of the episodes with Marco, Roman, Adrian, to talk about your collection and more in depth, because I think you have some real gems over there that our viewers, would really appreciate the history behind it, the finishing. Like Marco can go into even the tiniest detail of the watch, and I think your collection needs that sort of exposure.
I love actually Marco when he's talking details like that. I think you guys found a really good way of having like different points of view. Because I see Alex is always, like more like business oriented. He's
Yep,
chasing the deals, which I absolutely love as well.
of course.
Adrian, it's always, like the buyer. Like
Hmm.
he knows what he's doing. He has the pulse of the market. So it's a great mix what you guys got there, and it's something that you cannot manufacture easily. It's just like it happened to be like that. You guys gave the opportunity to a lot of people, and I truly appreciate the work that you guys put into produce all this content. Because not only I enjoy your content, but I know that because of you and your success, a lot of other dealers and a lot of other people in the industry are joining this movement of producing more content. For watch collectors like me, we truly appreciate having this every week. It's not easy, and I see that you guys put a lot of effort, and I appreciate it.
Well, that is probably the best compliment that we can get, because you do this work and you hope that somebody likes it, and to hear that somebody such as yourself actually likes it and actually appreciates it, you can't ask for anything better.
So before we go, I have to mention something because it happened years ago when I was watching Roman, and he had a very few views at the time,
Hmm.
because obviously like not many people were into watches, like it wasn't the right
Correct.
moment. But his content was so good that I was always watching it, and I was hoping that he would continue doing it no matter what. And it reminded me of I went to a concert of Post Malone.
Hmm.
He's a friend of mine, and in Barcelona, and there were probably like 1,000 to 2,000 people. It was at the very beginning of his career, and I was watching him singing, and I was thinking, there's so much talent in here, and he should be in stadiums, right? So with Roman, I had that feeling. I said like, the value that this man is giving us by showing these watches that you don't see anywhere else. I truly hope that he finds the success in. Oh, he obviously had the success on the company, with the company, but with the content, so he continues producing it. And now that you guys build this, I'm so glad that it happened.
Hopefully, it only gets bigger and we get stadiums. Metaphorically speaking, I'd love.
You will.
Netflix is next. Well,
Stay independent, but
Alex.
yeah.
Yeah, I know we will. But again, I really appreciate you taking the time. It really has been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
I'm going to invite you on again because I do want to talk about, top, like best and worst gray market episodes. So I'll
Okay.
do the research and we could sit down for a couple minutes and shoot an episode about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so
Well,
much for your time.
thank you. I hope you have a good weekend and take care. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
See
You
you
too.
later.
Later.